Decoded.
Welcome back to Book Decoded, everyone, where we, like we always do, we break down brilliant books.
Yeah.
So you don't have to.
Exactly.
And today we are tackling Stoicism 101 by Erick Cloward, which is basically your crash course in this like super old philosophy that's like, having a major comeback.
Like a resurgence.
Major resurgence.
Yeah.
And, you might be picturing guys in togas, like just hanging out, pondering,
Deep thoughts.
deep thoughts.
Yeah.
But trust me, Stoicism is way more practical than you think.
Totally.
It's like a toolkit for navigating the chaos of, the 21st century.
It is a toolkit.
And Stoicism 101 gives you the blueprint. So the book actually starts by taking us back to ancient Greece.
Back to the roots.
Back to the roots, where it all began.
Yeah.
And we meet Zeno of Citium, who basically started teaching philosophy on the street corner.
Imagine that.
Talk about, like, taking your ideas to the people.
I mean, yeah, he wasn't always a philosopher, though.
Oh, really?
Zeno was actually a wealthy merchant. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
Yeah, and surviving a shipwreck and deciding, you know what, time for a career change, I'm going to become a philosopher.
That's one way to shake things up.
It is.
So what was Zeno's big idea?
Well, Zeno believed that virtue was the sole good.
Yeah.
Everything else, wealth, fame, even health, those are just tools, not the end goal. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a toolbox full of hammers, screwdrivers, and saws.
I'm with you.
Those tools are useful, but they're only as good as the person using them right.
Okay. I'm starting to see where this is going. So virtue is like the skill of using those tools effectively in life.
That is a great way to put it, and that's what Stoicism 101 really emphasizes.
Yeah.
It's not about denying the good things in life.
Right.
It's about understanding their proper place.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how this idea, born over 2,000 years ago, is resonating so strongly today.
It's true.
People are realizing that chasing external things doesn't always lead to happiness.
It's like we've come full circle. We're rediscovering this ancient wisdom that's always been there.
Yeah.
So Stoicism 101 takes us through that whole journey from Zeno to Roman emperors like Marcus Aurelius.
Exactly. And Marcus Aurelius is a great example of Stoicism in action. His personal writings, meditations, are basically his journal entries about applying Stoic principles to, running an empire.
Oh, that's some high-stakes Stoicism.
He was dealing with wars, plagues, even an attempted coup.
Wow.
Yet his writings reveal this incredible sense of calm and purpose. And that's what Stoicism 101 shows us. It's not about becoming emotionless.
Right.
It's about finding that inner peace amidst the chaos.
One of the key principles the book emphasizes is this idea of living in accordance with nature. Now, when I first heard that, I thought, okay, am I supposed to go live in a cabin in the woods and forage for berries?
It's definitely not about that.
Okay.
The Stoics weren't advocating for a rejection of civilization.
Okay.
When they talked about nature, they were referring to our capacity for reason.
We humans have this incredible ability to think rationally, to make conscious choices, and Stoicism is all about using that ability to guide our actions, to make choices that are aligned with our true nature.
So it's more about using our heads instead of letting our emotions run wild.
Exactly. Which brings us to another key concept, impressions and assent.
Okay.
The Stoics believe that we have the power to choose how we react to external events.
Okay.
You might not be able to control what happens to you, but you can control how you interpret it and how you let it affect you.
It's like that old saying, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. But the Stoics actually gave us a framework for putting that into practice.
Absolutely. Stoicism 101 breaks down this process of how we perceive something, how we form judgments about it, and ultimately how we choose to respond. And the key is to pause to examine our impressions before we just automatically react.
So instead of just reacting on autopilot, take a moment to hit the pause button and think things through. And this ability to manage our emotional responses is crucial for navigating the ups and downs of life,
Right.
especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with information and stressors.
It's like Stoicism gives you this mental toolkit to build resilience so you don't get swept away by every little thing.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful tools in that toolkit is the view from above, which the book describes beautifully.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The book talks about imagining yourself looking down at Earth from space.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly your problem seems so much smaller, right?
That's the idea. Stoicism 101 encourages us to use this technique to shift our perspective, to gain some much-needed detachment from our everyday worries.
It's almost like hitting a mental reset button.
It can be incredibly effective, and the book doesn't just explain the concept, it actually gives you practical ways to use the view from above in your daily life,
Oh, wow.
to reduce stress, gain clarity, and find that inner peace that the Stoics were all about.
So it's not just this lofty philosophical idea.
Hmm.
It's something you can actually use in your daily commute at work, even when dealing with family drama.
You got it. And what's even cooler is that Stoicism 101 connects this ancient wisdom to modern psychology.
Oh, really?
It explains how techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy are actually rooted in Stoic principles.
That's fascinating. It really shows how these ideas are so universal and timeless.
Yeah,
Like the Stoics were onto something that modern science is just now catching up to.
I think so.
Okay, so we've talked about the history, the core principles, and how it connects to modern psychology.
Right.
But Stoicism 101 also goes beyond the basics, right? It gets into some of the deeper concepts of Stoicism.
Yeah.
Stoicism isn't just about individual resilience, but also about our role in society and our relationships with others.
That's right.
And Stoicism 101 really emphasizes that point. One of the key concepts the book explores is that of oikiosis.
Oikiosis.
Yeah, it's often translated as appropriation, but it's really more about this natural inclination we have to care for ourselves and those closest to us.
So it's kind of like that instinct we see in animals to protect their young. But for humans, this instinct expands as we mature and develop our capacity for reason.
Precisely. Stoicism 101 explained how this concept of oikiosis evolves from a focus on self-preservation to a broader sense of care for the well-being of others, eventually encompassing all of humanity.
It's like starting with that basic instinct to take care of ourselves and then gradually expanding that circle of concern outward.
Exactly. And the Stoics saw this as a natural progression driven by our ability to reason and to understand our interconnectedness with others. They believe that we are all part of this larger cosmic web and that our actions have ripple effects throughout that web.
It's like that butterfly effect idea, that even small actions can have big consequences. And Stoicism 101 really drives home the point that our actions, even seemingly insignificant ones, have ethical implications. They matter because they contribute to the overall well-being or harm of the community of humanity as a whole.
Wow. When you put it like that, it really makes you think twice about the choices you make every day.
And that's why the Stoics place so much emphasis on virtue. It wasn't just about being a good person in a general sense. They believed that virtue was the key to living a truly fulfilling and meaningful life. And they identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance.
Okay, let's break those down. Wisdom, I get that. It's about making wise choices, using your head instead of just reacting emotionally.
Yes. But Stoic wisdom goes beyond just practical intelligence. It's about understanding the nature of the world, our place in it, and what truly matters in life.
So it's like having a bigger perspective, seeing the forest for the trees.
Exactly. And justice is all about treating others fairly and equitably, recognizing their inherent worth and dignity regardless of their social status, wealth, or background.
It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard.
Precisely. And courage isn't just about physical bravery. It's about having the moral strength to stand up for what you believe in, face your fears, and to persevere through challenges.
So it's about that inner fortitude, that grit.
Exactly. And temperance is all about moderation, self-control,
Right.
not getting carried away by excesses.
It's about finding that balance in life, not going to extremes.
And Stoicism 101 makes it clear that these virtues aren't just abstract ideals. They are practical skills that we can cultivate through daily practice and mindfulness.
It's like Stoicism is giving us a workout routine, but for our character.
And just like with physical exercise, consistency is key. The Stoics believed that we develop virtue through repeated action, through making the right choices over and over again, even when it's difficult.
So it's not about being perfect all the time. It's about striving to be better each day.
Exactly. And the book offers a lot of practical advice on how to do that, from practicing mindfulness and self-reflection to seeking out mentors and role models.
Speaking of role models, Stoicism 101 includes some pretty inspiring examples of Stoic figures throughout history. People who embodied these virtues in their own lives.
Absolutely. From Cato the Younger, the Roman statesman who stood up to Julius Caesar, to James Stockdale, the Vietnam War POW who endured years of captivity, the book shows how these principles have helped people face incredible adversity with strength and dignity.
It's like seeing Stoicism in action, proof that these ideas aren't just theoretical, they actually work.
And the book doesn't just focus on historical figures, it also highlights modern-day Stoics, people who are applying these principles to challenges we face today.
Like Stoicism is having a renaissance. People are realizing that these ancient ideas are just as relevant now as they were centuries ago.
One of the things I found really fascinating in Stoicism 101 was the discussion of Stoic optimism.
Stoic optimism.
Yeah, it's not the kind of rah-rah, everything is awesome kind of optimism we often see today.
Yeah, it's definitely not about putting on rose-colored glasses and ignoring the bad stuff.
Right, Stoic optimism is more about having a realistic understanding of the world, acknowledging the challenges and suffering that exist, but also recognizing our ability to choose how we respond to those things.
It's like that idea of Amor Fati, loving your fate.
Yeah.
Even the tough parts.
Exactly. And Stoicism 101 explains how this acceptance isn't about passive resignation, but rather a way to find meaning and purpose even in the face of adversity. It's about recognizing that even difficult experiences can be opportunities for growth and learning.
So it's not about pretending everything is great. It's about finding the good even in the bad.
Precisely. And that takes a certain kind of inner strength, a willingness to face life's challenges head on and to find the lessons within them.
I love how the book describes this as a kind of realistic optimism. It's not about denying the negative, but rather choosing to focus on what we can control, on our own responses and actions.
And this leads to a sense of inner peace and tranquility that isn't dependent on external circumstances. It's a kind of happiness that can't be taken away no matter what life throws at you.
Which is pretty powerful when you think about it, especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us happiness is about acquiring more stuff, achieving more status, or looking a certain way.
Stoicism offers a different path, one that's based on inner strength, virtue, and a deep understanding of our place in the world.
And Stoicism 101 makes that path accessible to anyone regardless of their background or beliefs.
That's what makes this book so compelling. It takes this ancient philosophy and translates it into a language that we can all understand and apply to our own lives.
That brings us to the last part of our deep dive into Stoicism 101. Let's shift gears and talk about how we can actually put these Stoic principles into practice in our daily lives.
Yeah, and in this final part, we're getting into the nitty-gritty, the actual stuff that you can use, the actionable stuff. Because let's face it, that's what we're all here for, right? We want to know how this ancient philosophy can help us deal with the stress of our modern world.
Exactly. It's all well and good to talk about virtue and living in accordance with nature.
Right.
But how do we actually put those ideas into practice?
Well, Stoicism 101 doesn't disappoint.
Okay.
The book is full of practical techniques that you can start using today.
Okay. Give me an example.
Okay, well, one that we've touched on before but is worth revisiting is negative visualization.
Negative visualization.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive.
It does. Okay. Stick with me.
Okay.
I have to admit, I'm still a bit skeptical.
Yeah.
Why would I want to focus on the bad stuff?
Yeah. Isn't that just going to make me, more anxious?
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
The Stoics weren't suggesting that we dwell on negativity
Okay.
or try to manifest bad things. It's more about mentally preparing for potential setbacks.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Imagine you have an important presentation coming up at work. Instead of letting your anxiety run wild, you could take some time to visualize potential challenges.
Wait, so what if I forget my notes?
Exactly. What if you forget your notes?
Yeah.
What if the technology fails? What if someone asks you a question you can't answer?
Yeah.
By thinking through those scenarios in advance, you're less likely to be caught off guard, and you can actually come up with strategies to handle them.
So it's like I'm practicing for the worst case scenario so that I'm not thrown off balance if it actually happens.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book emphasizes that this practice can be applied to all areas of life,
right?
From relationships to finances to health.
Oh.
For example, let's say you're worried about a potential conflict with a loved one. Instead of avoiding the issue or letting your fear fester, you could use negative visualization to imagine how the conversation might go.
Oh, okay, so playing it out in your head.
Exactly. What are the possible outcomes? How would you want to respond in each scenario? By mentally rehearsing those possibilities, you'll be better equipped to handle the situation with grace and composure.
So it's I'm taking control of my worry.
Yes.
Instead of letting it control me.
Exactly. And that's a key theme throughout Stoicism 101.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that we have more control over our thoughts and reactions than we often realize.
Which brings us back to another powerful Stoic technique.
Yes.
The dichotomy of control.
Yes.
This is all about focusing on what you can actually influence.
Right.
But how do you actually do that when it feels like so much is out of your control?
It's a practice for sure.
Okay.
And the book offers some helpful tips.
Okay, what's one of them?
Yeah, well, one is to regularly remind yourself of what is and isn't within your power.
Okay.
The Stoics often use this analogy of a circle inside the circle are the things you can directly control. Your thoughts, your actions, your reactions outside the circle are all those external factors you can't control. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions.
It's like drawing a line in the sand. Like, this is my domain.
This is what I can control.
Yeah, and this is outside of it.
Exactly. And the key is to focus your energy on what's inside your circle. The Stoics argue that we waste so much time and emotional energy worrying about things we can't change, but when we shift our focus to what we can control,
Right.
we become more empowered and effective.
It's like that serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly. And Stoicism 101 really emphasizes that wisdom is an ongoing process. It's about developing self-awareness,
Yeah.
paying attention to your thoughts and emotions, and learning to distinguish between what's truly important and what's just noise.
Okay, so we've talked about managing our emotions,
Uh-huh.
but what about dealing with other people that can be like one of the biggest sources of stress in our lives?
Absolutely. And the Stoics had a lot to say about relationships,
Okay.
both personal and professional. And one of the key principles is to remember that you can't control other people's actions, only your own reaction.
Easier said than done, right? But I guess it goes back to that dichotomy of control idea.
Right. Instead of trying to change other people, focus on being the best version of yourself. The Stoics believe that by embodying virtue in your own life, you'd naturally attract good people and create more harmonious relationships.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world.
And the book also emphasizes the importance of empathy and understanding.
Okay.
Before judging or reacting negatively to someone else's behavior, try to see things from their perspective.
Walk a mile in their shoes, as they say.
Exactly. And the Stoics recognize that everyone is dealing with their own internal struggles and challenges. We're all flawed human beings trying to navigate this complex world, so a little compassion goes a long way.
So instead of getting angry or frustrated, try to respond with patience and understanding.
And remember, you can choose to walk away from toxic relationships or situations. You don't have to put up with negativity or abuse.
That's so important. Sometimes we forget that we have the power to choose who we surround ourselves with.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the question of meaning and purpose.
Ooh, big one.
Does Stoicism have anything to say about finding meaning and purpose in life?
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
But I'm guessing the answer is yes.
You bet the Stoics believed that true purpose comes from living in accordance with nature, which for humans means using our capacity for reason
Right.
to act virtuously.
So it's not about like finding some grand mission, destiny.
It's not about that. It's about making choices that align with our values and contribute to the greater good. And that purpose can be found in the everyday, in the small acts of kindness, in the pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement in our relationships with others.
It's like Stoicism is reminding us that we don't need to climb Mount Everest or win a Nobel Prize to live a meaningful life. We can find fulfillment
Yes.
in the ordinary.
In the ordinary. And that's a really powerful message, especially in our culture that often glorifies achievement and external validation.
Right. So it's like Stoicism is giving us permission to let go of those expectations
Yeah.
and to find joy in the simple things, in being present in the moment, in connecting with others.
Exactly. And that's what I love about Stoicism 101. It's not just a theoretical exploration of philosophy, it's a practical guide to living a better life.
And it's a reminder that these ancient ideas are just as relevant and valuable today as they were centuries ago if you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or just looking for a more grounded and fulfilling way to live. I highly recommend checking out this book.
It's a great introduction to Stoicism and a valuable resource for anyone who wants to cultivate inner peace, resilience, and a sense of purpose.
So that wraps up our deep dive into Stoicism 101 by Erick Cloward. We hope you found this exploration of Stoicism insightful and inspiring.
And until next time, keep decoding those books.
Keep seeking that wisdom. Thanks for listening.